Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and good morning to you, I hope. It is April 17th, and it's, for the first time in some time, dreary, which is, I don't know, perfect for a Monday. So all kinds of things that were supposed to happen this morning didn't happen. Jeez. The Fox Dominion trial. That was supposed to have started today. And the judge, well, I'm sure you're ahead of me on this, but yeah, it appears the two parties are talking about settling. And I would be extremely disappointed if that happened, but it could be I'd be wrong about that. I mean, one never knows what the outcome of this would be, but there's just never been such an extremely strong case, given our laws, of getting a so-called news organization for obvious dereliction of its responsibilities. So I don't know. Dominion, it's already won in so many ways. You never know what's going to happen at trial. So it could be they're going to settle. What I wanted was the in-court, the whole thing. I wanted, all those SOBs under oath. The fact that we've seen we haven't seen all, but we've seen plenty of emails that shows that Fox News was, of course, exactly what we knew it was, but what we suspected its audience didn't know, which was it is not a news operation, it is a propaganda outlet. And that's clear from all the stuff that Dominion got through discovery as the case proceeded. Damn, I don't know. I'm sorry. I read that Fox News ratings have not been hit at all. So you tell or maybe they don't see it, you tell their audience that these guys have been lying to you. Their own texts and emails show that they're lying to you willfully, that they obviously have no respect for you or your intelligence. You put that out there and they still keep watching. Scary. And the most unbelievable thing is I'm paging through the New York Times today, and on page 5 of the New York Times is a full-page ad taken out by Fox News. Now, for Fox News to take out a full-page ad in the New York Times, you would think they would just find that, something that they couldn't bear to do, because that's got to be putting a lot of money in the Times coffers. Not that Rupert doesn't have it, but amazing. Full page ad. And you know what it says? In huge letters, trusted now more than ever. TV networks most trusted for news. And they have a bar graph showing that Fox News is more trusted when Americans are asked than ABC, CNN, CBS, NBC, or MSNBC. Where the hell these numbers come from, they tell you where they come from, and I have no idea. Fox News, it says, America is watching. Oh, God. Unfriggin' believable. I really want to see him. I want to see him squirming on the stand. So that was supposed to happen today. It didn't. And then Elon Musk, I guess, was taking a little time off from tweeting inanities at 3 a.m. From the couch he's sleeping on the 7th floor of the almost abandoned Twitter headquarters in San Francisco, to launch, I guess, the biggest rocket ever or something. His SpaceX rocket. That was supposed to have happened this morning. Nah, not scrubbed. So all these things didn't happen. So what did? Plenty. And most of it stuff you don't even want to know about. I have to admit that looking at the papers today and news sources, it's discomforting, disquieting, disgusting. Speaking of disgust, I made a quick trip to my brother's since last we spoke, and he's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I was looking at his bookshelves. I mean, the whole house is bookshelves, and I pulled this book out, and it's in Korean. I mean, obviously totally indecipherable to me. I said, "What the heck is this?" He says, "That's my disgust book." I said, "It's been translated into Korean?" Well, yeah, it has. It turns out his book on disgust is like really hot in Korea. Now, I know the book is called The Anatomy of Disgust, and I know that it has been extremely can't say popular because he writes at such a high intellectual level that most people's eyes start crossing, but he wrote that some years ago, and this weekend he was doing an interview with some Canadian radio show about it. I don't know. Disgust seems to be enjoying a resurgence. So when I said disgust, made me think of that. Also, since I mentioned, to get to Ann Arbor, you find yourself on the lovely Ohio Turnpike, and there's a sign on the Ohio Turnpike. I just want to ask some of you more scientifically inclined, geologically inclined folk to tell me how they figure this out. On the Ohio Turnpike, I mean, if you're heading west, and maybe you've passed Youngstown, you've passed Lordstown, or what's left of either of those two poor industrial cities. And maybe you're 10, 20 miles further west, right around there. There's this huge sign, and it's made out of that's the same green as all of the big, huge official signs like ramp and where the ramps are, and how many miles to who knows where. So it's a totally official sign, and it's but it's on the side of the road. And I don't know if I have the exact wording, but it's always blown my mind because it says that sign marks, I think it says the divide between the Mississippi and Great Lakes watersheds. Now, so, I mean, and it's not like I would think that would be like on a high hill where you could, see that, yes, a drop of water falling right here goes that away, and a drop of water falling literally an inch away from that ends up going entirely different. But it's this unremarkable sort of place, and it says that right there is where, one drop of water ends up in the Mississippi if there's a rain shower, and the other drop ends up in, I don't know what, Lake Erie, in the Great Lake watershed. So those are two huge watersheds, right? How do they ascertain that that's where that's the point at which, that's the fork in the road, so to speak? How do they figure that out? I'm just asking, because it troubles my head for, I swear, all the way to Toledo. I just couldn't. I mean, it's amazing what people can figure out, but it's all beyond me. Okay, just to avoid talking about things that scare the hell out of me, can I mention that I happened to see a movie? You know how there are movies that for some reason you didn't see, maybe willfully, no, I'm not going to see it. And then maybe 30 years later, you think grudgingly, well, all right, I'll watch. Well, that's what happened to me the other day. And the movie in question was Oliver Stone's JFK. And I'm sure the reason I didn't see it when it came out was that I just figured it was, going to mess with my head because it's full of the conspiracy theories about what really happened on that day when Kennedy was shot. And I just, and Oliver Stone makes me nuts. So I didn't see it. But anyway, there it was. I was looking for a movie, and there it was. And I thought, good cast. Amazing who's in that movie. It's a good cast. Why don't you look at it? And I must admit, I pretty much enjoyed it, actually. But what blew me away is that at the very beginning of that movie, he uses archival black and white video from American history. And just to set up Vietnam, Bay of Pigs, Cuba, all that stuff. So you see Fidel Castro, you see Khrushchev, you see all this stuff. And then you see and hear President Dwight David Eisenhower. And I guess what blew me away is how astonishing it is that he was the head of the Republican Party. And he was a Republican president. And he was clearly a good, honorable, intelligent man. And he would no more be a part of that party today than he would be a card-carrying commie. It's just breathtaking. Now, the part of an Eisenhower speech that Oliver Stone employed at the beginning of the movie JFK is an excerpt from his the speech he made to the country as he was ending his 8-year presidency. And I was so some of it you will recognize because it became famous. But I was so taken by the little I saw that I immediately, Googled Eisenhower's farewell address, and wow. In some ways, it just shows how, even in terms of sort of the literacy of his speech, Not that long ago. Well, spoken like an old lady. Wow. So I'm going to share with you what I'm sharing is part of what ended up in the movie, obviously, and which is why you will recognize it. He's talking about the fact that, prior to World War II, even the Korean War, America didn't feel it needed a permanent arms industry. That we figured that the guy, well, I think he put it with the plowshares. He says, the people who make plowshares could readily be retooled to make swords. And then he said that as president, though, and given the Cold War, he had seen that actually we do need to have, he was unhappy about it, but we needed to have some permanence in our military might. But he was queasy about it. And so I'm going to pick it up here. We have been compelled, he said, to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security more than the net income of all United States corporations. This conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of this huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals. So there was a famous invocation of the military-industrial complex. His warning to us, his prophetic warning that clearly we did not heed. Absolutely, everything he feared happened. Everything he had warned us of. Boy. Okay, so this. Okay, no, wait, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure where to go here. Okay, there's something that I've decided I'm really afraid of. I mean, there's so many things. But if you're making a list of what is Lynn Cullen quaking in her boots about today? No labels. You know what that is? No labels. It's an organization that was founded, I think, in the 70s or 80s? Way back, maybe not that far back. But it is a group of, moderate types, that's how they see themselves, who are dismayed about the hyper-partisanship that defines our political reality and our discourse. I'm seeing here. It was founded 2010. Makes more sense than what I was thinking. And the people behind it, actually, one of the founders was a Democratic fundraising type operative. And so these are the people that, and I don't, I think bipartisanship is a worthy goal, obviously. But this group is the group that is going and has already begun to potentially screw up the 2024 election. And I'm scared. It's better funded than any third party has ever been. It has tens of millions of dollars behind it, and it is actively now, as we speak, working to get on the ballot in most states. And this group, No Labels, has decided that if the race is between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, that they are going to mount a third party candidate because they find both Trump and Biden extreme. Now, right there, that's all you need to know. They see an equivalency between the Democratic potential nominee and the Republican potential nominee. Right there, they're not as non-denominational as they may appear. But they are actively and potentially going to do what Ralph Nader did in getting George W. Bush elected. Because the voters they'll be picking off, and they're targeting these battlegroundish states like Pennsylvania, where they'll pick off those, what they're looking for are those like suburban voters that end up giving Democrats victories. Peel enough away, and in a close race, it doesn't take that much, and you throw the race to the Republicans. No one mounts a third party candidacy like this group expecting to win. It is always a spoiler. Always. I mean, my God, Teddy Roosevelt ran after being an extremely popular president and being out of office for just 4 years. He ran in a third party bid, and I don't even think he got an electoral vote. So here's a spoiler group, well-funded. This is the one that, what's his name? I so hate him. Lieberman is involved with. they can absolutely affect who wins. And, oh, sure, they say, oh, we're not doing this as a spoiler. Yeah, well then, why? A number of people watching these guys have come to the same conclusion, that they're going to help Donald Trump. A piece written by Jonathan Capehart in the Washington Post says this: their map gives away the game. 2/3 of what they see as potentially picking off electoral votes would come from Biden, states that Biden is expected to win. And he quotes one insider Republican type saying, if Trump's the nominee, the no labels coalition certainly hurts the Democratic candidate. Rich Lowry, editor of the National Review, has written the same, that a no labels candidate would, quote, most likely help elect Trump. I looked, because now this is my latest terror. I looked them up to see who are these people. I want names. And, mostly the names are not anybody, but just so we understand. No labels, likes to talk about bipartisanship. That's their deal. But they hold, events and candidate forums and things like that. In 2015, this group invited Donald Trump, 2015, and represented him as a potential problem solver. And this was at an event in New Hampshire. See, he was one of them in that he clearly wasn't affiliated with any party. He'd been a Democrat, he'd been a Republican, he'd be whatever he happens to feel like being at any given time. Also, I learned that just this spring, this group, No Labels, posted a tweet that said that the January 6th committee investigating the insurrection was, quote, a partisan exercise. Okay. So I just think it becomes clearer and clearer that this so-called bipartisan group are Republicans. They're probably not Donald Trump Republicans, but they're Republicans. And so they have invested, they got deep pockets, $70 million in laying the groundwork for this third party candidacy. We don't know who the candidate would be. And it says here, like she's got, the moderate, the woman is named Nancy Jacobson. She's the founder and the former Democratic fundraiser. And she has enlisted the help of, and maybe here's their candidate, Governor Larry Hogan. He was the more moderate Republican governor of Maryland. And he apparently is the co-chair of this effort. So also, guess who they met with just the other day? Former Trump Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. He met in Dallas with some of their money people. I'm just saying, no labels. Let's be clear. No labels is Republican, and they're bound and determined to keep Biden from winning re-election. They hired. Do you remember Mark Halperin? He was often on, I think, CNN, a political analyst, and then he got booted off for sexually harassing or assaulting a number of women. Guess where he ended up? They picked him up. They hired him. I don't know. I have to tell you, you keep an eye out. It's these groups that sort of fly under the radar, that given the divide in this country and the closeness of that divide, that these groups, these third-party spoiler groups, can have an extraordinary impact, and not one you want to see. I've seen it happen in my lifetime. I thank you all who voted for Ralph Nader. Bree writes, as each new Republican announces or says, I'm not running, most of them are pulling out already. Bree says, I think it increases Trump's odds of winning. Well, I mean, winning the nomination for sure. Who's going to win the nomination? He owns that party. He's got it, doesn't he? He'll be under so many indictments and carrying the banner of the Republican Party. Biden clearly is going to run, and Bree says he'll announce soon, but will his running mate stay the same if he has any health issues? Well, all I'm saying is a perfect storm that could arise. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit last week, that I know you don't find a lot of people who are, swooning in admiration over Kamala Harris, but I don't see Biden kicking her off the ticket. First of all, for many reasons. Number one, she's done nothing egregious. Also, for him to kick her off would suggest that he had made a mistake in choosing her in the first place. Also, he'd be throwing off a black woman, not exactly the kind of thing to get black Democratic voters out. I just don't see that he could do that. And for those who are getting, weak kneed, thinking, well, what if he dies? Yeah. So what? Think Kamala Harris would be a better president than Donald Trump? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So I would, and I think if Biden is, what do I know? I think he needs to give her more hype. He needs to put her out there more in a more positive light. Let her shine if she's capable of it. I don't know. I was thinking back at all those people who wanted, to run against Trump. Remember all those? She was one of them. Elizabeth Warren, remember? Yang. Marianne Williamson, who's back in the race, I understand. Am I blanking on all the others? Anyway, you won't see that again. People are not going to take him on, an incumbent who's done a fine job. The only negative is his age. It's a big one, if you ask me. I'm so sick of all these old farts not making way. I don't know, but the clock's ticking and scary. It's just scary. That's my new fear. And so why should I be scared? I'm telling you. No labels. Scaring me. And the Republicans, when they have power, they use it. They don't care what it looks like. They don't care if it's, I was reading this thing about Poland the other day. And boy, if I were to share some of it with you, you would think I was talking about a story that was written about, let's say the Republicans do win. Trump is returned to power. Okay. Then imagine, here's what I read. It's talking about Polish politics, which are as ugly as ours, divided as ours, but one party, it would be their Trumpian party, did seize the national government and then proceeded to do the kind of thing an autocratic party does to ensure it remains in power. It took over the public broadcasting system so that it had a constant barrage of propaganda to the people. The party in question there is their little neo-fascist party is called the Law and Justice Party. And it gained power in 2015. And I'll just read to you what it says here. They came to power in 2015, promising to defend traditional values, to protect the church, be the Catholic Church there, and to give voice to struggling voters living outside prosperous, liberal-controlled cities. So there you have it, the same urban-rural divide, the same invocation of the church and traditional values, right? And it said that immediately when it got into power, it went after the judiciary. By the way, this is the same kind of thing Hungary, Viktor Orban did in Hungary. But Poland doesn't get as much attention for doing pretty much the same thing. And so when the Law and Justice Party came in, as I said, they take over media. They go after the judiciary, and they limited the judiciary's independence. Note what Bibi Netanyahu is trying to do in Israel. This is autocratic, fascistic power grab. You could write it out. You do this, then you do that. And who did they target? These guys always need, enemies. They targeted gays. They targeted LGBTQ as a threat to Polish values. I see here in this country, the Republican Party would still do that, but see, that sort of, I don't know, that the American people seem to have moved on from that one. Pulling that back would be really hard, like saying, no, gays can't marry. I don't see them doing that, which is why you've seen them pivot to trans being their rallying cry, as if there's 500 gazillion trans children that we need to worry ourselves about. But in Poland, they just went after gays. So, and obviously trans. And they rolled back, you try to get an abortion there Forget it. Anyway, so I was just reading about, Poland, and I'm reading that and I'm thinking, this is exactly what Republicans so admire about Hungary, about Poland. They look at this and think, that's what we're going to do. And, they've had some success. That's where we're heading. And then I see a little item. I remember that a few weeks ago, I think it was Beth calling in from West Virginia, who warned us that one of the Democratic senators who is up for re-election, who's going to be going to be targeted, and they want him taken out. And you have to wonder how he ever keeps getting re-elected, is John Tester in Montana. Now, here is a guy. He's a Democrat. That is so red a state. It's unbelievable. And he wins, and then he wins, and now he's up again, and they figure, come on, if Montana can't get rid of him. They like him there. It's sort of like Sherrod Brown winning in Ohio. And I was going to say Manchin in West Virginia, but no. See, the fact that Manchin feels he has to, watch himself with the way he votes and abandon the Democratic Party regularly. You don't see John Tester doing that. You don't see Sherrod Brown doing that. And they win re-election. Well, because Tester, even though he's a Democrat who votes with Biden, he is expected, he would be the guy. They don't even know who they're going to run against him yet. What they're doing? Because obviously they control absolutely everything else, the Republicans in Montana. They're rewriting the election law. No, well, I should say, they are. They are literally rewriting for just this one upcoming senatorial election in 24. They changed the rules for just this one. It doesn't apply to any others. How the hell can you do that and not, run from any reporter? I mean, just shame. Without shame. How do you do that? It's so clear they're trying to rig the election. And this is how they figured out how to do it. They've got a bill, and it would rewrite the rules for Tester's Senate race in 2024. Shifting the way the vote is tabulated from the way it has always been and will still be in every other race, which is, you count the votes, whoever, like most people do it. They're going to change it to a top two primary system, which makes it almost impossible for a third party to reach a general election. Now, see here, so you're thinking, what? We were just talking about third parties. But here's the thing. The Republicans in Montana have always felt that a third party, the Libertarians, have been the ones responsible for Tester and his success. So if you take them out of the game, because they are not going to be one of the top two, that in the general election, Tester can be defeated. It's unbelievable that they would do this. Shameless. I've decided I simply can't talk about mass shootings anymore. I'm sorry. I can't look at the pictures. I don't want to hear it. I don't even. I'm out. I'm done. As soon as somebody starts an actual something that I can jump into and know that I can get some, I mean, the fact, well, I don't want to talk about it. How? Well, this is a rhetorical question. How corrupt is Clarence Thomas? I mean, the level of corruption is just mind-blowing. I mean, since I spoke to you last, two more things have come out. And you know what's funny? You know, this journalistic group, ProPublica, that has broken this story, continues to come out with more and more stuff. Excuse me. And the Wall Street Journal, trying to defend Thomas, actually slammed ProPublica, calling it a left-leaning group. Now, here's what's funny about that. Just want to share this with you. ProPublica is the offspring of two men who, before they created it, both worked at the Wall Street Journal in pretty big capacities. One was an assistant publisher of the Wall Street Journal, Richard Toffel, and one was a former managing editor. Those are huge, high positions on a masthead, and they're the guys that their former employer, Wall Street Journal, is now accusing of being left-leaning. Oh, yeah. What a joke. Depressing, but fascinating story. Yesterday's New York Times about how the right decided that the boogeyman of this cycle will have to be trans people. And it flat out, the reporting is I mean, it's telling the exact truth. It literally says this. Well, actually, no, they let the guy say it. There's a group called the American Principles Project. And that's the group, the American Principles Project, who acknowledged after the Supreme Court gutted Roe v. Wade that they'd won what they'd been, the thing they've been aiming for so long. Decades and decades and decades. And so now they needed another right. They needed something else that would get their base lathered up. And here's the quote from the president of the American Principles Project. We knew we needed to find an issue that the candidates were comfortable talking about. And we threw everything at the wall. He's acknowledging that after Roe, they weren't sure what was going to work. And he said, what stuck? And they were really surprised. What stuck was the issue of transgender identity. That stuck. So if you're wondering why all of a sudden transgender is like this if you think again of the priorities that most Americans have in their lives, of what are the things that concern them in terms of their children, in terms of, in fact, if we're worrying about protecting our children right now, I'd say most Americans would say, could we figure out a way not to have them get shot at schools and birthday parties? That would be a really good start. I don't think most American parents would say, can we make sure that they're not subjected to drag queen shows or have to, I don't know, have to learn about the fact that some people are uncomfortable in the skin they were born in or whatever. I mean, my God. But this is and it's why you have to slog through these ridiculous things about the fact that Bud Light's stock is down. Anheuser-Busch's stock is down. Because they dared, I guess, to advertise or in conjunction with a trans person who's an influencer on, social media. And the Republicans found out about that. And so people now in bars all over the red states of this country and in the, wherever red people, wherever Republicans congregate, you better have some balls on you to order a Bud Light, even if that was what you've always had. Because now it has become a victim of, it is a signal. If you're drinking a Bud Light, then you apparently think transsexuals are okay. This is the level of absolute insanity and absurdity that our country functions at. Now, this is the level. So understand why transgender now is so big. Republicans have grabbed onto it. This is because they don't have abortion anymore. In fact, it's hurting them. Abortion's hurting them now. Yeah. So this is the next one because it allows to bring in all those, traditional values. It pulls their evangelicals back into the fray. And it was pointed out that this is so reminiscent, you old folks like me. Do you remember Anita Bryant? That she was a Miss America, and she was a real anti-gay person and spokesperson. And she started something called the Save Our Children campaign. And that was an anti-gay, that was saving our children from gay people. Mm-hmm. And that was big, and that was Republican. 1977, that's when that was. Well, see, they can't do that one anymore. But that worked so well, to save our children from this horror. Now, they can't quite use gays anymore. Oh, they can talk about grooming. That's why that word is out. You grooming and the woke stuff, all that is skirting around the edges. But trans, mostly because most people don't even understand it. They don't even understand. Well, I don't get it. What? This person, what? That kind of thing. So what is not understood and what seems so out there is scary to people. And scaring people is what has always been the animating principle of Republican politics. Oh, we're going to scare you to death, and we're going to say, don't you worry. Big Daddy's here, and he's going to help you. So I just think that the trans thing is making my head hurt. We're talking about a very small slice of American people. They are already, by virtue of being such a small slice, vulnerable in that they're a minority. I mean, other minority groups will know what it's like to be the Republicans' boogeyman of the time. Certainly black folks do. Gays do. So, I almost don't want to engage on it much anymore. Because again, it's a narrative they've set up and that we all then have to get pulled into. And yet, they are putting in danger a lot of people and children as well. They care. It's just mind-blowing. They want to be the party that is concerned about our children. And yet they won't do a damn thing about what is killing more of them than anything else, which is guns. And that's all you need to know about how much Republicans really give a damn about our children. Drag queens ain't killing them. Transsexuals aren't killing them. My God. There was a piece, I tried to let it comfort me some, but I don't think it did. It was written by Lydia Polgreen, and her op-ed said that Republicans' trans panic isn't working. I'm not so sure. She just points out that, all the most recent elections, even the Wisconsin Supreme Court election that was just held, is just showing. And in fact, by the way, she pointed out something that blew me away. You remember I quoted the head of the American Principles Project. He's the guy who's the one who said, this is it, trans works. We're throwing everything at the wall. This is the one that's stuck. The American Principles Project threw almost $1 million at ads in that recent Wisconsin Supreme Court race, trying to tar the woman who won, the Democrat, as someone who would force transgenderism down our throat. So they took the transgender issue and tried to make that work for them, because abortion wasn't doing it. And she won by 11 points. So it's something like that this woman says. You see, they think this is the issue. But for most people, it's just not going to work. I mean, Joe Biden won Wisconsin by 20,000 votes. She, unabashedly liberal, won it by 200,000 votes. So I don't know. I'm hoping this woman's right. She ends thusly. Suddenly, after years of pointing fingers at the left for so-called cultural totalitarianism, Republicans have now decisively revealed themselves to be the jackbooted thugs, wanting details of your teenage daughter's menstrual cycles. It's hard to imagine a less appealing message to swing voters than that. So I give you that little hopeful counter to what the GOP sees as its ace in the hole this year. Transsexualism. Oh, God. What a pathetic excuse for a party. God. Okay, that's it. On that, with that contempt dripping from my lips, I say, oh, hang on. I say, let me read this from Barbara real fast. I went to the Hazlitt Theater to see Perseverance yesterday. That was, that's about the Holocaust survivor, the Pittsburgh guy. We had his daughter on. A very nice experience, she says. Nothing out of the ordinary from what I expected, but just very nice. Free parking, easy access, other than the seats being the worst. I'm glad you brought it to our attention. Thank you. The seats are the worst there? I'll tell you where the seats are the worst is the O'Reilly Theater. They're so tight. They're so like, I can't, I got a long thigh bone. I can barely sit in those seats. There's not enough, whatever. We don't need to talk about your most hated theater seats in Pittsburgh. Okay, that's it for me. I'm glad you went, Barbara. I hope others do as well. And remember, here's another thing you go to is the Eddie Project at the Carnegie Theater. That'll blow you away. Okay? I'm out of here.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.